Hello and welcome to Election Review Series. My name is Damlola Ogunshakin, and joining me today is Mr. Dayo Akintobi. He's the publisher of Ilukpeju Today, Lekki Today, and Ikeja GRA Today. Hello, Mr. Dayo.
Good morning, Damlola. Good morning to all of you.
Yes, and before the election started, of course, INEC, since last year, they've been making a lot of promises to Nigerians. So, with the conduct of this, coalition exercise so far, do you think INEC has fulfilled its promises to Nigerians?
I think INEC has not met the expectations of Nigerians based on the lofty promises it made at the outset. When it came time to justify its budget, I remember I went to the National Assembly and had to make a lot of promises because the members of the House of Representatives were aghast at the amount of money it was asking for, several hundreds of billions of naira, and House of Reps said, "What do you need all this money for?" And INEC had to try and justify the budget, and it made certain promises that we want to use this money to secure the electoral process. If you give us this money, we assure you that we will deliver an efficient, hitch-free election. We will deliver an honest, transparent election whose results you can be rest assured are straightforward and honest. So they made all those promises. And now, with this outcome that we're starting to see, all the promises seem to have failed. The elections were not hitch-free. There were glitches, logistics-wise. Personnel and materials and equipment did not arrive when they should have arrived at many polling places. The BVAS and the other technology failed. It wasn't able to upload information to the server as was expected. There were sporadic outbreaks of violence and mayhem at some of the polling units. And so that has led a lot of people to complain bitterly that not only did INEC not meet up to its promises, but it failed the expectations of the people. So there's a lot of disgruntlement in the population right now.
Yeah, but INEC, like you said, they've given their reasons why the server failed and all that, and the main thing they said is the server went down. But Mr. Dio, with your little knowledge of internet technology and what INEC has, their resources, do you think this excuse is tenable?
Well, you look at it and you have to admit that issues of network, issues of internet, issues of connectivity are really outside the control of INEC. They just they contract a service provider. But to put your responsibility onto somebody else does not obviate you of the responsibility. So the buck stops at your desk. You can't turn around and say, "Oh, one of my service providers failed, that's why I didn't deliver." We don't know your service provider. We don't care who your service provider is. We gave you the job, right? So if any of your contractors failed, it's you we're going to hold liable because it's you we gave the job to. So we don't care that it was some network provider whose internet network was down was why you couldn't do your job. We don't care. We just wanted you to do your job. And to enable you to do your job, we gave you all the money you asked for and more to make sure that you did your job. So you can't come back and start putting excuses on a third party somewhere. "Oh, it was the network, it was not us." No, it was you. Because it's you that have the ultimate responsibility. So the failure is like the president or no, not the president. Let's even use the CEO of a company or even the president of a country. He gives a job to a minister and the minister goes out. Say, for example, the Naira policy. Who is getting blamed for it? Is the president? Nobody's really saying, "Oh, the CBN," even though in this case, yes, they're accusing the CBN. But what I'm saying is the buck stops at the table of the person who was given responsibility, even though it's not him by his own hand. It is his agent. So INEC has a responsibility. We don't care that INEC's agent failed. We don't care that the server was down. All we know is that INEC, we gave you a job to do and you failed at it, so you are responsible.
But I mean, the preparation time wasn't short 2023 elections, we've been talking about it right from the time that the last election ended, and it's been long also. They've been planning towards it. Do you think there should have been a practice? I mean, but we had the Osun elections and the Ekiti State elections, and this is still causing issues. And INEC, they are still giving us excuses.
Preparation for this current election, it didn't start when the last election ended. It started in 1999 when we started doing elections, because when we started going back to democracy and started doing elections, because each election you hold, right, is a test run for the next election. So what I'm trying to say is today's election, the processes are the sum total of every election we've held since 1999, because with each election you learn something new. You see some mistakes you made, you correct them. So with each coming election, you're supposed to be getting better and better and better. So the preparation for 2023 started in 1999, and all the lessons that have been learned between 1999 and 2023 should have stood us in good stead to run this election with minimal hitches. We can understand that, a vehicle that was conveying materials from Abuja somersaulted. We saw videos of this civil defense truck that was coming with materials from Abuja to supply them somewhere. A tire blew out, it somersaulted. That's an act of God. We have little or no control over certain things, but those kind of things are minimal. When you see systemic failures that are widespread, then you know that preparation has been slipshod. And that is why everybody is up in arms against INEC now. And that is why it's casting a shadow over INEC, because people are starting to say, you had enough time to prepare. We gave you enough money to prepare. You've had plenty of bad experiences in the past. You also had test run. You test ran in Ekiti. You test ran in Osun. You also did a mock accreditation a few months ago. Do you remember that? Yes, they tested the beavers with a mock. So you've done all that. How then can we have this level and degree of lapses if it's not intentional? That's why people are suddenly looking at it and saying, something is up, something is up, because there was too much preparation and too much money and too much history and too much experience for this level of mismanagement to have occurred. So that's letting people take a second look and say, let's check and be sure this is not intentional. Either from INEC or some people who are pulling INEC's lever, some people who have control over the leaders of INEC and are manipulating INEC to bring about a desired result. That's what's causing it.
But will you say beavers is actually more reliable than the manual, collation?
If beavers works the way it's supposed to work, if it works as it's intended, it makes rigging difficult. So yes, it'd be much better than the manual, because look, the manual, how it works is, okay, so we all vote at the polling unit. They count all the votes. We stay, you stay there, I stay there. All of us who voted stay there. They count it. The agent signs. Then they take the paper and take it to the ward. When it gets to the ward, those of us who stood here and watched it, we are not there at the ward. So between when it leaves the polling unit, gets to the ward, remember there are 4 levels. There's the polling unit where you vote. Then it goes to the ward collation center, where all the polling units in that ward come together, bring their results to that ward collation center. Then the ward collation center takes it to the local government. So all the wards within that area all come together at the local government, submit their results. Then the local government tabulates all the ward results and sends it to the state. State now tabulates all the local governments and takes it to Abuja. So the problem is, in the middle of going from polling unit to ward to local government to state collation center, the results are changed because there's no chain of custody. Those of us at the polling unit, we didn't follow them to the ward. Those at the ward who signed it didn't follow them to the state. Those at to the local government. Those at the local government didn't follow them to the state. So each step, the result is changing. So by the time it gets to the national in Abuja, it's completely different from what you saw at the polling unit. That's why manipulation and rigging is very easy with the manual system. But Beaver stops that from happening if it works perfectly. Because why? Once the elections have been completed, that form that they normally would use hand to carry and start changing along the way, that form is photographed by Beaver and uploaded to IREV in a central server in Abuja. While we are all there still standing, all of us who voted, while we are standing, the results are uploaded in our presence. So it's already in the database. It can't be changed. So if Beavers works as it's intended, it is foolproof. It does stop results from being changed. That's why its failure is casting a shadow on these elections, because now some places have had to do the manual. Some places have had to carry the paper and go from to those 4 places, which opens it to change.
All right, this is taking me to the question of this ad hoc staffs. The fact that so many of them, according to reports, some people refuse to upload the result to IRF themselves. So should we blame the ad hoc staff? Because some of these ad hoc staffs, they are youth covers, and we know they are children. Most of them, they have these very young mindsets, and they are very easy to convince. So should we blame the ad hoc staffs, or who should we blame for some of these glitches, and how are they being picked, sir?
Well, you see, the thing is, even with the youth corpers, INEC had a training program for all of them, and the ones who did not show competence in ability to operate the devices, they were let go. The people we saw at the polling units that were youth corpers, the ad hoc staff, there were people who showed competency in the training process and were kept on because they knew they showed a proficiency in their ability to operate the equipment. So when we hear stories that some people refuse to upload the IRF, it further deepens this suspicion that there is a conspiracy afoot. Otherwise, why would an ad hoc member? Some said, yeah, I didn't know how to do it, or I tried to do it, it didn't work, or the network was down. And some outrightly simply said, I was instructed not to upload. Perhaps instructed because network was down, it won't go. But those who are the polling units held some of the ad hoc staff hostage and said, if you don't upload this thing, we're not letting you go from here. So you begin to ask yourself the question that, is it really the fact that the beavers failed, the network was down, or is it that some people did not want the results transmitted electronically so they could be subject to manipulation and change? That's the million-naira question to ask, is that did some people intentionally coerce the youth corpus? Because you're saying they are young, they are susceptible to inducement. Did some people offer them money? Did some people threaten them and say, if you upload this thing electronically, this will happen to you, that will happen to you, that will happen to your family? Or is it that they offer them money under the table, here, take these several thousands of this and don't upload it manually, or say the network is down, so we have to carry it manually by hand, which is when we can now change it. You see, this is the problem, is that because INEC staked its reputation on this technology, the lapses or the failings of that technology has left INEC open to all kinds of suspicion. So none of these conspiracy theories, or none of these questions or aspersions or allegations, none of them can INEC just brush off and say, oh, you're talking rubbish. No, we're not talking rubbish. We need to know. So an investigation needs to be held because INEC has opened itself up to suspicion.
All right, at this stage now, Nigerians are complaining about the results coming from INEC. And the fact, and in fact, two parties, two people, they walked out. The stage they walk out at the coalition center yesterday, the coalition center rather. Do you think INEC at this point should bow to the wishes of the people?
No, I think the process should continue and it should be concluded. I think that what is being done now, this thing called collation of results, it's simply a collection of the results as declared in the different states. The 36 states and the FCT are bringing their results to hand them over. It's not a review, right? INEC is not saying that we sanctify these results. It's just a collection. They have to gather all the results first before they can start examining our complaints. If we truncate the process midway and say, oh, stop the collection of the results, it becomes difficult to continue the process because some of those results may be genuine, some may be accurate. So we need to complete the process and then begin to weed out the ones that are not above board, the ones that don't pass muster, those ones that are clearly erroneous. We can begin to remove them, but we should not disenfranchise the people whose votes are properly recorded. So I think it's a good thing. And the chairman of INEC said it yesterday during his briefing. He said, the law says we must complete this process. We should collect all of the results. Once we have collected all of the results, we will now listen to your complaints and investigate them individually. If those complaints rise to the level of where it rubbishes all of these results, then we throw them in the dustbin and start over. If it doesn't rubbish all of them, the ones that are proven, we will remove them and redo. So I think it is proper to complete the process because we completed the election, right?
Yes.
So any complaints we may have, those complaints should come in after the results have been collected, right? We can't begin to complain about things that have not been officially recorded yet. So let there be an official. In other words, what I'm saying is, if they truncate the process now, how can we be complaining about something that has not actually been done yet? As long as they've not finished collecting these results, the election has not finished. So our complaints have no locus. Our complaints or our grievances have no leg to stand on. They begin to gain currency when the process has finished, all the results are in, the chairman says, I've collected all the results, this is the total for this is the total for this is the total for this. He has not certified a winner yet, he has just reported to us the numbers as given to him by the 36 state resident electoral commissioners and that of the FCT. Then at that point, an investigation should be done. He says the law grants INEC a 7-day window after conclusion of the collection of results. They have a 7-day window for review. He's now promising all the stakeholders that within those 7 days, come with your complaints, come with your grievances. We will sit down, we'll look at them together, we will investigate them. Any ones we find to be true, we will take action. So let's wait.
All right, all those complaints, the the stage walkout from the collation center and other issues surrounding this election. How does this rub off on the credibility of INEC and also Buhari's administration?
Well, remember that the president said his legacy, the only thing he cares about is to leave office knowing he gave a free and fair and transparent election, and that his successor reflects the will of the people, that he wants to deliver the best elections we've had since 1999. Now, this is not a good way to start off that legacy, because right from the very moment the polls opened on Saturday 25th, there have been complaints, there have been issues. So it has risen to the point that parties protested yesterday by walking out of the coalitions. Even before the walkout, Labour Party had already said Rivers State called for the cancellation of Rivers State elections because they said that there were malpractices. So Rivers Labour Party had already complained about the Rivers State election. Then during the collation exercise yesterday evening, the agent for the PDP, who is Dino Malaye, stood up and said, I can't remember, it was after one of the states was presented, one of the results of one of the states was presented. He stood up and he said, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, these results you have just presented, the results were not uploaded to IREV by Beavers. This result you are reading was hand-delivered. The Electoral Act, first of all, does not even allow that. The Electoral Act says from the polling unit, Beavers must upload to IREV. That is the Electoral Act. Even though they try to say, oh, it's a guideline, it's not a law. We're not lawyers. What do we know? When this matter gets to the courts will determine what is a guideline and what is a law. But the Electoral Act prescribes the process. And that process says, upload from the PU, polling unit, in front of everybody. Upload with Beaver to IREF. It didn't happen. So the PDP rep stood up and said, sir, this exercise is a nullity because you are here reading results that were manually submitted. But Electoral Act doesn't allow that. So please stop. The chairman now said, where's your evidence? If you can bring evidence that what I'm reading here is different from what was documented at the polling unit, then I'll take a look at it. Of course, the PDP agent didn't have any evidence. But the point for me is that the body, because INEC was one who staked its reputation on this technology. So once it has failed, it's for INEC to prove to us that the results were not any different. That, in other words, even though the technology failed, it didn't affect the outcome. That's for INEC to prove, not for Dino Melaye to prove. Do you understand?
Yes.
So, but I concur with the chairman. Let the process finish. When we finish, come back with this your allegation Then we will go and get the paper from the polling unit, and we will look at
What's this?
the numbers we read out here and see if there's any discrepancy. If the numbers have changed in the process of it moving from place to place, we'll nullify that election. So the PDP agent wasn't satisfied because he wanted the thing to stop right there and then. That this thing about manual paper is not right. This your idea of let's finish is not right. So in protest, he walked out. Some other parties walked out with him. The others came back after a while because they did a head count of who is here, who is not here, who stands with INEC, who is against INEC, and all the parties said they stood with INEC's decision to continue the process till the end and then listen to all the complaints and take all the grievances. But PDP didn't come back. I think Labour came back. PDP didn't come back. So PDP stood its ground. In other words, the protest by PDP is that we do not agree with what you are doing in terms of accepting votes that were collected manually instead of only the ones that were uploaded the way the Electoral Act has prescribed. So it was a protest by PDP. Substantively, what is the effect of that walkout? It doesn't really change anything except that it's on record that PDP objected to the procedure as not being law-abiding or as not being in accordance with the Electoral Act. So it's on record that PDP objected. But I would have preferred him to, his objection is noted. The whole of Nigeria saw his objection on television. We all heard it. I would have preferred that after his objection, he sat down and continued with the rest of the process. But hey, he's not me and I'm not him.
All right, before this election, Nigerians suffered a lot. We have to talk about the first scarcity, the naira scarcity, and especially the currency change. And according to some of the things they said, that it was changed in order to stop electoral malpractices. Now, at the end of this exercise, do you think Nigerians, all this is worth it? All the sufferings Nigerians have experienced, do you think it's worth it?
Well, let's reframe the question. Did the naira redesign policy, did it achieve its intended objective? If its objective was to keep money out of politics, it failed. It failed. That's the truth, because money was still in politics. In fact, it's the virtue of the fact that money was in politics is why you and me couldn't get naira to spend, because all the politicians had all the new naira notes and the old naira notes as well. So look, bottom line, fuel scarcity, new naira note scarcity, it impacted this election negatively in many ways, apart from the fact that people were hungry and hungry people are angry people. So it influenced some votes in one direction or another. Secondly, it inhibited some people from being able to go to the polls. There are some people who normally travel. They registered in their hometowns, in their villages. They normally travel to go and because they have greater interest in who is representing them where they live or where they're from, not where they work. Many of us have gone on a sojourn to go and work and earn a daily living, but our hearts and our passions are back where we hail from, right? So many of us register there, and that's where affinity is. And then we travel to the urban areas to come and earn a living, but that's where our life is. So many people are not able to go back. And you will see it in the turnout. The turnout is low. I mean, we have 92 million registered voters. I think they said 72 million accredited or something. And right now, we're barely about maybe 20 million who voted in this election. Out of 72 million registered voters, 20 million. That is abysmal. And I'm telling you that the double problems of what we have had recently contributed in large measure to the fact that people didn't show up. Voter apathy. People were not interested. People say, me that I haven't eaten and I'm hungry and I have no money to buy bread, I will now go and be voting for the very people who visited this hardship upon us. Because Nigerians collectively look at the elite or the government, they're all one. We don't, when it comes to hardship, we see, in spite of no naira, didn't we see politicians riding in their jeeps and going in their private jets and eating at fancy restaurants? They didn't feel the pinch. So as far as we are concerned, they are all responsible for all of our woes. So we're not separating APC from PDP, from Labour, from any of them when it comes to our own hardship. So we looked at it and we said, all of them are still enjoying their life while we are suffering. So why should we care to even perpetuate them in government? We're not interested. So it had a major impact upon the outcome of this election. both in the way people voted, in the way people stayed away from voting, in the way people couldn't vote who wanted to vote. And when you say, was it worth it? That question is really ambiguous, because was it worth it to who? Was it worth it to the people who did it, or was it worth it to those of us it was done to? If you're talking about the government, was it worth it to them? I don't think so, because what they said at that time was they wanted to keep money out of politics. I didn't see money being kept out of politics. I also think this idea of vote buying is overrated. I think, oh, vote buying, vote buying, vote buying. I think Nigerians are open-eyed enough and politically conscious enough to the point now that even if somebody offers you 1,000 naira or 5,000 or 10,000, you take their money, but you vote your conscience. So I don't really think that vote buying, the way they've made it sound like, oh, we're in a queue at a polling unit and somebody is standing there handing out 1,000. I think that's obsolete. We are bigger than that now. We have moved far beyond that in our political consciousness that anybody can come and buy our vote. So buy our vote willy-nilly. Yeah, maybe one or two people are susceptible. But by and large, the larger agglomeration of Nigerian voters, Nigerian masses, right, are politically conscious enough to where they are thinking people. We're not thoughtless enough that you can just suddenly offer us a mess of porridge and then the next 4 years our life is gone to pot. So I give the Nigerian voter greater credit than the politicians give credit for. So this notion of vote buying is highly overrated. It doesn't happen as the way they painted it as the reason to have suffered 200 million of us for the last 3 months. It just doesn't compute. So to answer your question, no, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. No way.
All right. Lastly, I just want to talk about this one. The fact that Lagos, the street of Lagos seems to be empty. I mean, or should I just say less activities? Yesterday and today, I noticed that many people were not out. And I asked someone, they said, it's because he or she wants the whole these whole elections issues to die down. But do you think it's just that people are scared, or scared of what?
Well, there was an earthquake, a political earthquake in Lagos yesterday.
Yeah.
This is the fact that Labour won Lagos. Not just won Lagos, but beat Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his home state. And of course, he's one of the front runners for the presidential ticket, right? But he's also known as the landlord of Lagos. He has held sway over Lagos politics since 1999. And for him to now have been beaten in his home is a very big deal, right? Mm-hmm. Now, many people have tried to paint Labour's victory yesterday as an ethnic victory, right? What do I mean by ethnic victory? They're trying to say the Igbo population in Lagos is large, and that all of them rallied around, got together, and gave their franchise to Peter Obi, and that's what gave Peter Obi the election. It is not true. There were lots of non-Igbo people who voted for Peter Obi. The youth, the entire NSAS movement and NSAS generation are the number one fans of Peter Obi and came out in numbers to vote for him. I don't think we should put ethnicity or religion into consideration of how the election is going. Now, why are the streets empty? Because they've pushed that ethnicity card and have started saying that in this our Lagos, certain people who live here and who vote here and who earn their money here and who do their business here went and voted against our own person. And as a result, we are not happy with them. So it's a precautionary move for safety, for security of property, because I won't say tensions are high, but sensibilities are raw right now for the typical Lagosian who has been an APC follower ever since it was Tinubu in AD, Tinubu in AC, Tinubu in ACN, Tinubu in APC. There are those who are die-hard adherents to that particular political school and who are having a difficult time swallowing the loss, especially a loss to a Peter Obi who is seen as an outsider of Lagos anyway. So how can an outsider of Lagos have come and just run roughshod over the indigenes of Lagos, the landlord of Lagos? How could that have happened? So it's a precautionary move because the process or the anguish may be hijacked by miscreants. you know, agberos, touts, area boys, miscreants in Lagos, they hold sway to quite an extent. And they, of course, are generally foot soldiers of the ruling party in Lagos. So they are the most aggrieved. And they are the ones who are volatile, who at any second can suddenly combust and something kick off in a minute because somebody stepped on your toe the wrong way, boom, wahala. Do you understand?
Yes,
So as a precautionary move, people are staying indoors, shops are staying closed, especially in the areas that voted strongly and overwhelmingly for Peter Obi, because they don't want to become targets of the angst and annoyance of those who feel like they lost or that they were overcome in their own in their own territory. They didn't like
All right, let me just take some comments here. And this is coming from Frank Elaiho. He says the judiciary is not working. It's better to fix it now. Let INEC chairman get the INEC portal open for the world to see the result transmitted from beavers to the portal. Simple. And Barnabas, I think this is replying to whether it's what it's the suffering is what it says. Just get people starving. Someone cannot go out and get money. The old note is with me. I can't use it. What kind of country and system of leadership is this? And another person says all the machines are in perfect condition, just that they were told not to upload it, but of course we can't say. And we are still waiting for for HiNet to come out with the explanation, like they said. But let me take this funny one. This person says that the last person to leave Nigeria should please off the light and give the keys to the nearby country. That's probably from Godfrey.
Nice one, Godfrey. Switch off the lights on your way out.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer, for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. We have no other country to go though, so no, let's not switch off the lights. Let's just stay on a light-hearted moment. We have to all stay here and fix it. Yes. We will make Nigeria work.
Yes, we will make it work. Thank you. And
my pleasure.
Yes, and it's a publisher of Ilukweji today, Lekki today, and Ikeja GRA today. Just reviewed and analyzed some of the stories on the front pages with us this morning. And of course, to get more of our stories and things and trading around the world and continue with the election results, you can visit us on our website, www.vanguardnigeria.com, and follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. My name is Damilola Ogunshaki. Have a lovely day. And of course, we still have more series coming up. So stay tuned.